Yes. All right. We are live in the Songwriter's studio. I am Bluebeard Bard. I am a songwriter from Southern Illinois. I'm going to be your host here tonight. My guest is Terry, aka Purple Rhapsody, mainly an instrumental songwriter. It's going to be a first for the Songwriter Studio. We got an instrumentalist on the show. If you like what you hear from me, you want to check out my music. My links are up top. They're also in the title. If you like what you hear from Terry, you like his music, his links are down bottom. They're also in the title text. So let's get into it. How you doing, Terry?
Pretty good actually. Yeah, I mean, in all the advertising I've been doing for marketing for this, I've been pointing out it's 1 a.m. But I've had like 3, 4 hours sleep before this, so I should be okay. I'll do my best not to fall asleep halfway through.
Well, that's
But
good.
yeah, doing
Uh,
good, thanks.
yeah, how is? I see your piano right next to you there. Are we in your studio right now?
Yeah, I mean, it doubles as a working from home office and a music studio. And just if I risk the camera, you can see I've got my guitars on the wall. I've got my piano and everything. So I'm all set up. Like if I'm not in meetings at work, I can just kind of decide to do a bit of music.
Cool.
Not that I tell anybody that, so I hope nobody from work is watching this. But it's it's pretty handy.
Cool. Cool. So, when did you? What was your first instrument? What did you pick up first? Were you a kid? Were you an adult?
Well,
When did it happen for you?
hmm. Yeah, so I mean, you have to go way, 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 way back, something like I don't know, 40 odd years. My grandmother, on my dad's side, she was a church organist, and she had a piano in her home, and I would like copy what she was doing. Just on the piano, and she said to my dad, "Oh, he's using all of his fingers. That must mean he's got natural talent." Which, that was
Sure.
her just trying to be all, yeah, I was just copying. That's all I was doing.
Well, but there,
But
there's if I can interrupt, and it's a danger interrupting because we've got a little bit of lag. You being all the way in the UK, but I'm going to interrupt anyway because I want to say don't sell yourself short. And that is a talent to be able to copy because I can
mm,
do it a little bit. I know people who can do it a lot, and I'm always jealous. And I tell myself I could learn to do that, but I've never done it. So
yeah,
playing by ear
but
and playing by copying, that's something not everyone can do. And if you can do that, that's a gift in itself. So good for you.
yeah, but I'm not saying what I was playing actually sounded any good. It was more the fact that kids normally, they do it like that. So she was saying because I was using all the fingers. So she persuaded my mum and dad, and I think she actually helped fund it for me to have piano lessons from when I was 7 years old. So that's why piano was my first one. It's all down to my gran, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, so because I started so young, I went through all the official grades and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, but I always wanted to learn guitar, which is why I've got so many guitars on the wall. So I'm kind of more self-taught in the guitar. But
Okay.
yeah, it was yeah, piano first,
Okay. I was
which is
getting the
kind of
next.
weird that the track we've chosen that people will hear in about 5, 10 minutes or whatever is
Yeah.
actually very guitar based. But it's one of the first ones I felt comfortable actually that my guitar playing had got to a level that I could not use virtual instruments with the guitar, but actually play it. So yeah.
Sure. Cool. Cool. So when you started with the piano, did you learn out of a method book and learn classical pieces or from the beginning? Were you writing? When did you first think, hey, I got something in here that is worth putting out into the world?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it was a piano teacher, which is why the family had to kind of club together to be able to afford doing stuff. And the piano teacher was very much classical. But I I kind of realized maybe, I don't know, 13, 14 years old that I had ideas in my head that were different to what I was playing, that I didn't have to just stick to what was on the page. I could actually play different things. Um, and I mean, I've actually got some tapes, like old-fashioned cassettes of things that I thought were fantastic back then that I listen back to now, and it's like, oh my goodness, that was terrible. But so proud of it then. And
Sure,
I think like anything, honing your kind of creativity skills is as much a journey as actually learning how to play an instrument. Um, and I can hear some ideas that are like, actually, I did reuse that a few years later, but
sure.
there was only the core idea. The actual stuff that I came up with was terrible stuff that I'd never let anybody ever listen to.
This
Oh,
is
cute.
this is Sammy, by the way. She's lurking around, so I figured I'd give her a little screen time.
Yeah,
Sammy does
yeah.
not play any instruments by ear or out by the book. Um, no, that's really cool. Uh, so you had somebody who believed in you and
Yeah.
told you you can be a writer. Do you think you needed that, or do you think you would have gotten there on your own? Were you a like? Were you? I mean, not everyone. It takes a certain confidence and a certain ego to be an artist to say
Yeah.
that what I do is worth. So when did do you think you would have got there on your own? I guess is the
Yeah, it's
question.
yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because I still don't fully believe that all the people that say, "Hey, your music's great," are actually not on some sort of weird, like wacky backy, or some sort of thing to affect what they're hearing. But I'm getting to the point where, I mean, I've had the self belief to release quite a few albums, since I don't know 2005, I think. But when I listened back to the first two that I released, just self-released, because the internet is bloody marvelous. You can just release something, even if it's complete and utter shit, right? You can release it and put it out there. And I listened back to my first two albums recently, and realized that although the ideas and the music were pretty good, the actual production, the recording, the playing, they just weren't very good at all. So I removed them and redid some of the tracks, the better ones, and re-released them on later things.
Okay,
But for me, it's just that I've always wanted to get the music out there because if you don't, who are you doing it for?
sure,
You're just doing it for yourself. It's like very insular. You'll never get any comments. You'll never get any ideas for what you need to improve, get any opinion on whether anybody actually wants to listen to it. So I think you do need a level of self-belief, but I think you need more to have a bit of a hardened shell so that if somebody just says, "Oh, I don't like this," you don't take it personally, because
sure,
people like what they like. You can't force them to like something else. Um, and I realize that doing instrumental music is not everyone's bag. People like to have lyrics to hang their opinions off of, and other people hate lyrics, and some people like soundtrack style, and some people don't. So you can't force anyone to like what you do. But if it's out there, you open yourself up, and you just have to make sure that you've got that kind of hardened shell that you don't take everything personally and cry yourself to sleep each night.
sure. Yeah, there's always going to be, no matter. It's interesting for a couple things I want to say. First is no matter how many people tell us that what we're doing is good, we remember the person who tell us it sucks, right?
Yeah.
Like I played my music in a stream one time, and I remember it was so out of pocket, but the guy said I sounded like an AI. He said my voice sounded like AI and sounded emotionless, and he was like, "No, I swear this is AI. You can tell." And everyone who was in the chat who knew me, they were like, "No, we know this guy. Like we've
Yeah.
talked to him before. This is what he sounds like." And hearing that, ever since hearing that, I've made it a point to try to sing with more, to let stretch my voice a little bit, let my voice crack a little bit, let the breaths come through, let the imperfections come through, because I had worked so hard to have such just a steady, even tone and even presentation that to some jackass I sounded like AI. And
Yeah.
that was very annoying to me because I'm not a fan of AI music, and that's not. I don't
Yeah.
want to start a debate on that. If you are, it's not. It's neither here nor there.
No, I feel AI has its place.
Yeah,
And I work in tech, and I just have my concerns more about the way people are just saying, "Oh, AI can solve everything." Having worked in tech for years, AI can solve certain problems, but it's being marketed as the savior for everything, and
yeah,
that's my concern. People are just openly going, "Oh, AI, I'll give all my secret keys to everything, keys to my kingdom." And that's my problem, is that if terms and conditions change, or somebody goes, "Oh, actually, now we're going to share the information that the AI has trained itself on," you're completely open to all of your data just being spread throughout the world, whether it's
sure.
personal data or things that you've written that you want to keep private. That's my big concern, is that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon without thinking about the ramifications. I have
Yeah.
no problem with AI in principle, but that's my biggest concern from a tech point of view.
Well, I do have a problem with AI in principle. I am one of those picket line dummies who's out there. No, no, Skynet is coming. The machine. No, I don't. I don't really believe that we're on the verge of that, but I kind of am a bit of a doomsdayer when it comes to. I
Yeah.
mean, Elon Musk said at one point that society has a 5% chance of surviving AI in its full bloom. and
Yeah.
he is very much an optimist in many things. So if that was his view, and he knows more about these things than I do, again, not a huge Elon Musk fan either, but if those guys are worried, I'm worried because I like playing the acoustic guitar. I like singing my songs. I don't want anyone in my business. I don't want to have to fight a Terminator. You know, um,
Yeah.
I want to live long enough to meet all my internet friends and make lots of music and have lots of
Absolutely.
shows and all that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, sorry,
And that's just ticked off
off
the AI
topic.
box. There you go.
Yeah, off topic very much so. Away from AI, back to piano versus guitar. What made you pick up the guitar? Uh, when you picked up the guitar for the first time, why did you do it? When did you do it? How? What was that like?
Ah, you're right. Yeah. So again, I mentioned that like my family like funded all my piano lessons and stuff. My dad, when he was in his teens and early 20s, he was in a band and he played guitar. And he'd had this acoustic guitar just sitting on the shelf or in the corner of his bedroom actually for years. And I kind of picked it up and tried to play it a little bit. And he tried not to laugh, but I could see the humor in his eyes. But it kind of it got me interested. He did try to take me to a couple of like classes locally, but I just didn't have much skill or talent, so I kind of gave it up. And because I played the piano and I'd been playing for I don't know maybe 7 or 8 years at that point, I kind of thought this is going to be easy. It's the same theoretical stuff, right? It's
Sure,
just you got
just
frets
another
instead of
instrument.
keys,
Yeah,
but it's such a different thing. Yeah.
yeah.
So I was very much if it didn't come easy to me, I was in those years in my teens. If it doesn't come easy, I can't be bothered. So
I
that
know
that
that.
was my
I
first
know.
attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But probably you're talking mid 20s. I came back to it and thought, right, I'm actually going to try and properly learn. And so I found some online tutorials. I borrowed my dad's guitar. It was still sitting in the corner of the room. I wasn't living at home then or anything, but he wasn't playing it, so I borrowed it. I tried to learn some stuff. Found I made a bit of progress, enough to keep me kind of going, and I was at the right age where I actually had the kind of willpower to go right. I can't do it straight away, but I know that if I
Sure.
persevere, I might be able to. And yeah, I started replacing some of the virtual instrumentation that I was using with actual little bits of real guitar here and there, to the point where it's just you start to gain that little bit more confidence. And my late wife, Sarah, she got a bit dismayed at the fact that I had a good old-fashioned Fender, and then I wanted to get a Thunderbird Pro bass, and then I wanted to get a different guitar, then another guitar, then another guitar, because they all have different like styles, different
Sure.
sounds. You use one for
Sure.
rhythm, one for lead. But
Collecting guitars is a lot easier than collecting pianos, isn't it?
absolutely, yeah. So, I've got myself like three electric guitars, one electric bass. I've got myself an acoustic guitar. There's a classical one hiding somewhere, but it's not got any microphones or anything embedded in it. So I tend
Okay.
not to use it so much because I can't get the mic set up to make it sound perfect.
Quite how you
But
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I'm at my limit just now. Different types of guitars that I can justify. But yeah, I've probably been playing guitar. I got to the level where I actually felt comfortable using it properly in my recordings that I released probably about 10 years ago. But
Okay.
the track that we're focusing on tonight is one of the first where there's no virtual guitar at all. It's all hand played. Um,
Okay.
and that took a lot for me to release that because it was quite a massive change from kind of bolstering up my own confidence by using all the virtual stuff.
How does how does it change the track when you're playing live and you're playing a real instrument? I mean, I kind of know what my answer is to this, but I want you to tell the people versus a MIDI implementation of electric guitar where you can put in 16th and 32nd notes and runs that make yourself sound amazing in some senses, but in other senses not so much.
Yeah, so the faster you do the fake guitar, the more fake it sounds, is what I've found.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about when you play it live, you can get more emotion into it, and the actual when you like slide between notes, the timing is less perfect, and so it sounds more real. Even if it's just a tiny little bit off, it just sounds more real, and it has that kind of warmth and emotion that you don't get when you're doing things virtually. You can try and fake it virtually. You can tweak it. You can go, oh, I'll just make it a couple of milliseconds off. But unless you take a lot of time and care and attention on it, it still sounds fake. And you can tell it's the same sample triggered the same way by the same instrument. When you repeat things, but you can't. Unless you've been playing for like 50 years, you can't make anything sound exactly the same twice in a row. So again,
Sure.
I'll quite often do two or three different takes of the same melodic line, um, or the same chords or whatever, and I can mix and match them or double them up, one to the left a bit, one to the right a bit, and it just, although they're close, they're not perfect, and so it just sounds more realistic. And that's what I love about being able to play live rather than virtual. You can get something 99% of the way there virtually, but playing it live, recording it live, to me just adds that little extra bit of warmth. Even to the point that I left a couple of wrong notes in because I thought, well, they're not exactly wrong that it makes it sound terrible. They're just not what I planned. And so again, if I'd done it virtually, it would have been exactly what I planned. But because I made a couple of minor mistakes, it actually turned out better than what I planned. So you get those happy accidents as well.
Sure. Cool. Cool. By the way, I got a little flag on my. Hey, I got a little flag on my thing that said your internet connection is unstable. So if I disappear, knock on wood, that's not going to happen. But if it does, that's what happened, and we'll try to jump right back in, assuming my internet comes back up.
Yeah.
But hopefully that doesn't happen. But I saw something that just said it was unstable, so I don't know what that means. It's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah, I just had a message pop up saying Bluebeard's bandwidth is low, and then that message disappeared and it came back to full screen. So hopefully
Okay,
that's
all right. So
sorted.
maybe we're back. All right, good deal. Hey, back into it. How about this? Is it easier to write on piano or on guitar? Is it easier to write an instrumental piece for you, and how are they different,
Oh,
or are they the same? Is it just right and
sorry,
left,
I
or?
missed the I missed the question there. You kind of dropped out again for
Oh,
me.
did I? Oh no. Okay. The question was, how is? Oh yeah, I can see my thing is shit. Oh man. All right. How is writing on the piano different from writing on the guitar? Did you get it that time?
Right. Yeah, I got it that time. So writing on the piano, it's very much, if I think about it, because I've been doing it for so long, playing piano, I can essentially play what's in my head. But also, you don't need to worry about tuning. You don't need to worry about accidentally hitting the wrong fret. It's kind of, if you're in a certain key, you can kind of stick to that key. If you want to change keys, because I've just much more experience in it, and it's all very fixed tone, as in the semitones and everything. It's fine. But when you want to do a chord on the guitar, or you want to shift lines, because each string has its own tuning, I have to find that it's a little bit more thought that I need to put in, or there's more chance for an accident to happen, and I find it easier to generally to come up with the melodies and the chords on the piano and then translate them to guitar. But that
Okay.
now that I'm a bit more familiar with the guitar, I do write some things on the guitar, and the process is very different. I'm quite surprised at how different it is because it's that level of confidence in the guitar. Because I'm not quite so confident, I quite often have to play things two or three times and think, oh, actually, that is the best one I've had yet. Whereas a piano is very much in my head to the piano, that's it. And
Sure.
so I do
Okay.
more retries, more redos on the guitar, and
Sure.
so I get more opportunity for things to come through in different ways.
Okay. Cool.
Hope that
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah, it did make sense, and that's kind of the way I think about it. I ask this question to anybody. Well, I act like I've been around a long time. I will ask this question to anybody I can who plays these instruments, because to me they're very different beasts when it comes to
Yeah.
composing, and it's a matter for me kind of on guitar I find things, I discover things, and on
Hmm.
piano it's from my head to the keys a little bit more directly. Like
Yeah,
with
that sounds
piano,
exactly like
usually
my
it has to
experience. Yeah.
exist here first. On the guitar, I stumble into things more often because the strings, the voicings are a little different. What your hand can do is limited.
Yeah.
Depending on the key you're in, you've got different choices to make.
Yeah,
Um,
and even when if you're strumming or picking, makes a big difference as well. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so this track we're going to listen to, "Driving with the Top Down." You
Yeah.
said it's a guitar track. How many different guitars? How many different tracks? What are we talking about here? What should we get ready for?
So yeah, so it starts off with bass. It's the kind of bass line came to me first, to be honest. and it's kind of built on top of that. Then we've got a actually, if anybody's familiar with Bowling for Soup, I have a guitar with all the signatures on it, and I use that for the rhythm guitar. Uh, when I won it in a competition, it I checked with the guitarist in the band. Said, "You don't mind if I keep on using it and risk like losing the signatures that are on it?" He's like, "Oh no, man. Yeah, you go for it. Like we get fed up when things that we give away just stop being used." So I do
Sure.
that. Then I've got a Fender for lead, and I also have a Gibson for lead. I have two different lead guitar sounds. Um, so yeah, so you're gonna hear all that. There is piano in there, and unfortunately I don't have a drum kit, so there are some fake drums in there as well. Um,
We'll
but
forgive you.
yeah, but in general, just expect a kind of a rocky track that's trying to emulate the feeling you get when the sun's shining. You manage to somehow get your hands on a convertible. You're driving along, partner beside you, sunny weather, going maybe a little bit too fast for the speed limit, but out on country roads, just basically wind in your hair, sun shining, just having fun.
All right. There we go. Driving with the top down from Purple Rhapsody. Let's get into it. This is a nice transition here. All right. Nice.
I don't know about everybody else. For me, there was some speeding up and slowing down with the streaming.
Oh,
It might just be
was it
my
buffering again?
connection.
Gosh darn it.
Um, but yeah, but obviously that's just a really good reason to say, hey, go and check it out on the
That
page,
is a
and you'll
great
hear it
reason to check it out.
properly.
I was
Yeah.
going to say on my end, I thought I heard a tiny bit of that, but I wasn't sure. I was hoping it wasn't happening. I was hoping that in fact I was imagining it and it was just maybe a little rough playing from Terry, but I don't think that was the case. I'm guessing his playing was smooth as butter. And in fact, my buffer was I was buffering my bread instead of having Terry's buttered bread in my delicious breakfast plate. Um, my wife is shaking her head at me. She thinks I'm a dummy. Um, anyway, really nice track. First thing that strikes me is that as a guy who's been doing this for a little while, um, you were willing to pick some musical themes, some melodic themes, and come back to them. So many people,
Hmm.
I feel like either they fall into the trap of either only having one idea and it never changes, or they have six different ideas in a song. Whereas I think the sweet spot is two or three kind of
Yeah.
melodic themes that you can switch back and forth between that complement each other. I don't know. Do you see your writing that way? Did you think that when you were writing this, or did that just happen?
Um, Firstly, before I answer, are you deliberately still sharing your screen
No.
on the
How
call?
how does that? How do I stop doing that? It shouldn't be on the screen anymore. I don't
Uh,
think. But let's
all
see.
right, it's on the Zoom call, so I can't see my own video. But yeah, that's all right. No
Um,
worries.
well, let me see how I.
I can see myself now again. It's all right. Just wanted to check when I moved my camera. I hadn't made myself
Okay.
off camera.
All
But
right.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. To answer the
As
question,
if you were wondering, it's episode 3, and we still are not very good at this yet. So back to
yeah, it's all
Terry.
tech. Tech makes life easier, supposedly, but yeah, I've not found that to be the case, even though I work in tech. So anyway, yeah, to answer the question, I deliberately wrote this, and in fact, I generally deliberately don't want to cram too many ideas into one piece of music. So even though some of my musical ideas take 7 or 8 minutes to actually come to completion, what I tend to do is I'm like a big fan of taking a theme and then playing with it, like trying to do different things to it. Um, and if I'm deliberately trying to do like an almost like a song style but instrumental, I'll make sure that I vary things by maybe changing some of the effects on the guitar or adding a second line to the guitar. So in this case, without over analyzing the track, if you're going to do a traditional song with lyrics, right, you'd have your intro, you'd have verse one, verse two, maybe, then you'd have chorus, then you come back to a verse again, then you'd have a break, all that sort of stuff. So I deliberately with this one tried to kind of emulate that sort of style. But if you don't have any lyrics, you don't want to do like when you come back to the verse after the kind of chorusy bit, you don't want to do the full length again because in an instrumental that becomes a little bit more repetitive. So if you listen to the track carefully, which I'm not asking anybody to analyze it, but what I repeat the same melodic line twice, and then I come to something slightly different, and then I when I repeat the melodic line, I only do it once rather than twice because there's no lyrics to back it up, and so I make those sort of conscious decisions. But I agree that a lot of people, when they do instrumentals, they kind of try to emulate exactly the structure of a song, or they try to just have five ideas in a row. And I think for me, because I grew up being taught classical music, where you've got the masters for like hundreds of years, being able to do all these things, to have melodies um, come back differently in each movement, all that sort of stuff. I think it just subconsciously kind of ended up in my head, so that when I create my own instrumental music, it just doesn't sound right if you just repeat five different ideas in a row.
Sure.
Like my latest album, which this is from, Fractal Landscapes Forever. The very first track on that, it's classed as an EP on Spotify because it's only got like 6 tracks. But the first track is like over 20 minutes. But
Okay.
again, in that 20 minutes, you don't just have 6 ideas all just strung together. You've got like the same melodic lines, the same chords coming back in different instrumentations, maybe different variations, but trying to keep it interesting. Now, I've got no idea if it is interesting. To me, it's interesting, but it's a bit of an ask to say to somebody, hey, listen to this 20 plus minute piece of music and tell me what you think. So I'm just going to throw it out there, and if people listen to it, that's fantastic. But I was sort of, influenced by some of the progressive rock kind of classics, like some of the Pink Floyd tracks are that long. Mike Oldfield, Jean-Michel Jarre, if you're into synth music. I know he's not so big in the States, but certainly across Europe and China, he's pretty big. They do all these long instrumentals, and they all have the same sort of thing. Themes come back. You don't just have the same thing repeated or five ideas in a row. And I think all those influences have just ended up just I'm like a sponge. I've just absorbed them all, and it kind of turns out into my own music. The problem with all that, though, is that I end up doing music across lots of different genres. So for the listeners, I try to keep to one genre per album. I can never predict what's going to be next. Like next might be a solo piano album, or it
Sure.
might be an orchestral album, or it might be a soundtrack album, or it might be more of the same of what I've just done. But I try and like not make it too confusing for the listeners. But then when someone looks at all my albums, there's nothing to say what type it is, you know. But unless it be an
Absolutely.
obvious picture of a piano keyboard on the cover, and then it's like, hey, that's probably going to be piano, you know.
Right on. Cool. Cool. So when you were writing this, did you hear it in your head first or did you find it on the guitar?
So I was just kind of playing about on the piano, but with a bass virtual instrument
Okay.
loaded in. And so the bass that you hear first, that kind of came to me just playing it with my left hand, and oh, that's got something. So then I got the bass guitar down off the wall, started to play it, started to vary it a little bit on there, and then as I was playing the bass, the melodic line sort of came into my head at the same time. So then I was trying to play the bass and then trying to play the melodic line with my right hand on the piano, and I'm pretty sure my wife was having a good old laugh at me, trying to handle all these different instruments at the same time. But I got the basic idea into my music software, and then started playing around a bit with what kind of effects would there be. I've actually got a couple of hardware effects pedals, but then I've got all the virtual effects as well that you can add to the
Sure. Okay.
guitar lines.
Yeah.
And so some of the guitar is recorded with the effects already applied. Some
Okay.
is recorded with just the raw guitar, kind of very kind of narrow, plinky plonky sort of sound, and then the effects added later.
Okay.
But yeah, I like playing around, just trying to find the perfect sound, and but it very much came to me as I was playing it. So the bass came first, and then the melodic line came, and then when I realised I needed a bit of a kind of slowing down bit where the guitar sort of arpeggios come in, I don't know, it's about 3 minutes in, or maybe 2.5 minutes in, when it kind of sounds like it slows down, but it's just that the tempo's the same, but the general feel just kind of goes a bit calmer. Um, I realised that I needed something a little bit different, and so again, that was the guitar that led that. Just very simple chords and arpeggios. And yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question, but it was very much, it progressed organically,
Sure.
and all just sounded great to me as I was doing it. And then all of the different ways of doing the effects and varying the kind of the sounds to add a bit of interest to the kind of audio of it were the kind of the last things that I did as part of the kind of mixing process.
Okay. How about this? If you had been on a desert island and let's say this desert island hadn't had any guitars on it, all it had had is pianos, would you have been able to write this
Hmm.
song or was it only through the anatomy of the guitar that you found your way into it, do you think? Because the bass
It
line
was
must have come from
definitely
your head. Okay.
yeah. So the bass line came from my head, but I generally find bass lines. I mean, and I don't want to offend any bass players at all, but to me, bass lines generally um, to this kind of tune are relatively simple. As in there's not a lot of bending of notes. There's not a lot of complex playing. They're very much a solid foundation. And
Sure.
so
Yeah. They're
that
they're they're
coming
the
to me
root of
on
the
the
chord most times.
yeah
And yeah.
yeah. So that coming to me on the piano is quite a common thing to me because you can't bend notes on the piano. And the thing that I use generally, although I've got keyboard with all the knobs and like whistles and all that sort of stuff that you can do all the bending of the notes, generally I use the kind of electric piano that I've got. And so doing the bass line on that first, I'd have been able to come up with the bass line on that desert island with just pianos being ruined by the sun. But I wouldn't have been able to come up with anything else at all. It would have been a completely different track.
Yeah.
The melodies and the way the whole track came together was very much the result of playing the guitar to get the actual melodies developed.
All right.
It would have
Here.
probably existed, but would have been 100% different.
Sure.
apart
Here's
from the bass line.
here's a sidebar for you. As a guitar player, have you ever messed around with alternate tunings?
I did try once, but I found it really difficult to get my brain around it. I once tried to drop the bottom E string down to a D,
Okay,
just as that's the one that people tend to go to first
sure.
to
Drop D,
try and
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I just couldn't get my head around it. So I haven't yet
Haven't
managed
much.
to
Okay,
do it successfully. It's on my kind of mental list of things I should try
yeah,
to kind of
sure.
change it up a bit. But yeah, I haven't really had much success doing that.
Okay. Well, as someone who writes in that way of finding my way into things, and it sounds like you kind of do too. I had a ton of fun with Dadgad, Dadgad.
Yeah.
It's a very Celtic. It's like a sus4 chord when you just strum it open,
hmm
and you can put one or two fingers anywhere on the guitar, and you get something you kind of go, oh, what is that? Like I would never
Ah.
have, you know. So if you ever decide to dabble in one again, I'd say forget that drop D, go to Dadgad, just go completely foreign waters and just put a finger down somewhere and see how it sounds,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
find your way into something.
You
But
never know. That might inspire something. Yeah.
yeah, right on. So this song, "Driving with the Top Down," where did this title come from? Was it just well, maybe I should ask first. Was this song inspired by anything in particular, or was it just a melody one day and he said that kind of feels like a convertible in my head? I'm gonna go do it.
Oh, there's kind of a larger question there, isn't there? Do I come up with my titles first? Am I always inspired by something, or
Sure.
kind of where does my inspiration come from? And for me, this one, absolutely, it was a sunny day. I had been on holiday, and I'd been lucky enough. So I was going to Vegas, and I did what you have to do when you go to Vegas. I went to a casino, and I was actually really, really, really lucky. I managed to win about $1,000,
All right.
and myself and I've mentioned my late wife Sarah. It was us that was on holiday. We'd pre-booked a rental car, but it was just your basic, bog standard, cheap one. So we thought, right, actually, let's put this money that we've won to good use. And so we upgraded to a convertible. The weather
Okay.
was fantastic. So this is actually inspired by a real life experience. And
Okay. Cool.
when the baseline came, in my head, I was just back from the holiday, and it was like, actually, yeah. So this one, which is very rare, was actually inspired by the actual real life experience. Generally, the inspiration just comes to me from whatever mood I'm in at a time, or there's no real life experience which is influencing anything, and titles then come later based on what the track feels like. This one was the other way around, and it's maybe, I don't know, maybe a very small percentage, 3 or 4%, that the is actually based off a real life experience, and the title is there, and the whole idea comes together as one. So this is one of the rare ones, definitely.
Okay. If this song had lyrics, what how would it change it? Do you think I mean all right, again, I got an unstable internet connection again, gosh darn it. All right, well, we're just going to keep going, and like I said in the chat, I don't know if you're tracking the chat, Terry, but I'm recording this to my hard drive as well, so I can upload it to
hmm
should be able to upload it in complete form, for the world to see. So if we're buffering, as long as you and I are still on the line together, it's going to my hard drive. So we're just going to
Cool.
keep
I
on
deliberately
powering
don't have the
through.
chat open because I can't multitask very well,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
no, yeah, I can't
But
either. I just,
yeah, so
yeah.
if anybody's asking anything in the chat, you'll need to relay those to me.
All right,
Um,
sure.
but I'm hoping the chat's as lively as it was in the last one that I joined live. So
Yeah, there's
yeah,
some people talking. It's we've been hurt by the buffering a little bit. I feel like our numbers aren't what they could be because my
yeah.
internet is letting us
Um,
down. But
so is there an outstanding question that I've not answered yet because I went
yeah,
off on a bit of a tangent, or
I don't know. Were you done talking about it? Driving with the top down. If it had
I think I was
lyrics,
done talking about it. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
Oh, right. If I had lyrics, yeah.
yeah. Well,
So
how about this
if
for?
it had lyrics, I think
Yeah,
it would then fix it.
it would it would fix it. Okay, what do you mean by that?
No, so what the lyrics to me would fix the impression of my experience of driving with the top down. but other people have different experiences. You know, for me, it was a sunny day. There was no wind except the wind that was actually created by driving. There's a variety of roads. You know, there's just standard freeways. We ended up on country roads, just like just use single lane. You know, one each way.
Okay.
Um,
Did you go
and
out into
so
the
it's based
desert
on
and
that. So
out into the desert and out into the mountains, or just stay in the city, or where'd you go?
so we started off in the city, but when we got out onto the freeway and it was kind of slightly busy, but not too busy. We could do a reasonable speed, but then we went out into the mountains and you're driving those mountain roads, and it's still the sun beating down, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Um, it's very much that was my experience. But what I didn't want to do is if I put that experience into lyrics, then it would say like driving along the mountain roads, and then you're fixing in somebody's head that well, if they don't have mountain roads where they live, then they can imagine, but they can't translate the music into their own experience if they've been lucky enough to be driving in a convertible with the top down or a passenger or whatever. Um, and I prefer people to be able to do their own interpretation of my music.
Okay.
It's like, and also I'm a really bad at writing lyrics, and I'm really bad at singing. So
Okay.
you
Well,
know, those are two reasons as well why I tend to do instrumentals. But
yeah.
I'm always up for collaborations,
Sure.
to do
Cool.
that sort of thing as well.
Cool. Well, viewers are made aware. Uh, Banging stuff so far from what I've heard from you. I really like both piano playing and the guitar playing. So, what I was
Oh,
gonna
cool.
ask you next was, God, it slipped my mind again. I feel like I have this computer and I was going to take notes on it, but I we started buffering and I forgot about my note
Yeah.
taking computer. Um,
I
how
did
about?
notice on X you'd said something about you were thinking about getting into beats,
Yep,
and like how do people record the beats? And I've
yep.
already owned up to the fact it's completely fake drums on this one. Uh,
Is and you must. I'll ask directly, but I think I know the answer. Where do you fall on the great debate of analog versus digital recreation, MIDI implementation, etc.? Obviously, you've picked up some instruments, but you also have a foot in the other world.
yeah, I mean, if I had space for a drum kit and actually had the coordination to be able to play a drum kit, and again, the coordination is a skill that you can learn, um, but I just don't have the space for an actual drum kit, whether it's an electronic one or not. But what I find is the two different ways that you can approach doing the actual fake drums. As long as you've got a really good package which has realistic samples, you can either like program it all, hand draw it perfectly on the beat, and then you can use all the randomization or humanization tools, or you can try and play it with your actual um, like your own fingers or
Sure.
whatever. And
Yeah.
I approach the kind of direction that I load the virtual instrument into my software. I've got various drum kits that I've got. I spend way too much money on these things, but so and then I tend to try and play them on the piano keyboard, set up as if I was actually playing drums. So I'll use I'll just use my fingers to try and demonstrate. So I'll kind of do dum dum ch dum dum ch dum
Sure.
dum ch. So it'll be that I'll always have like my forefinger on my left hand would be the snare drum sample, and
Okay.
so that way it gets that humanization that I play
Yeah.
along
Sure.
as I'm doing it. And if I'm way too offbeat, then I'll correct it
Yeah. You can.
in
Sure.
the MIDI. But that also gives me the natural velocity as well, because it means that when I deliberately want the kick drum to be louder, I'll hit the key
You hit
louder.
it harder. Sure.
I'll hit it harder. Whereas it's really hard to replicate that if you do the programming in the MIDI first. You need to do it very clinically, and it loses that natural feel. So I hope that what comes across in this one is that even though they're fake drums, they've still got a natural feel to them. That the velocity of the samples that are being triggered fits what you'd have a drummer doing with a different strength of hitting the snare drum or the kick drum with the foot, and it just sounds a bit more natural. I find that tends to work for me, unless I'm going for something really fake and synthesizery, in which case, everything gets quantized exactly the
Sure.
beat. But I try to avoid that and try to make sure that what I play is as close to what I actually want as possible, and just correct the ones that are absolutely way out. You know.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I like the title of the song. I think it fits the mood well. But for the sake of argument, let's say you already had a song called "Driving with the Top Down" and you rate this beauty. What else do we get
Mm.
from this? What kind of mood? Where, like, if this was in a movie, and again, I'm going to take out convertibles. You're not allowed to have convertibles in the scene. What's happening in the movie scene when this is playing? Because to me, if I could tell you I heard
Hmm.
heroic, epic kind of. It was an open sound. I saw, honestly, what I saw was Link from Zelda, like surveying out over the expanse of. And that can sound like a snarky or backhanded compliment to say something sounds like video game music, but you know as well as I do, there's some very, very good music that has been, tons of money in that stuff, and some very good music in some of those games.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so anyway, so let you answer the
Yeah.
question,
So
because this is it, the minor
yeah. So
chords,
so
the
for
major
for me,
chords,
there's
where does it come from?
yeah. So I think for me, there's that kind of motion to it. I mean, as you said, I'm not allowed driving convertibles, anything like that. But for me, it's very much motion and some sort of extended effort to do something, or you're experiencing flight or something like that. And it's very much almost like the first half is like you may need to put some like effort in to do something, but then it's kind of it all calms down, becomes smooth, and then you get back to the kind of the complexity. It might almost be like some sort of fight scene, you know,
Okay.
or some montage of somebody's history of, like in a Rocky movie, as you know, you getting the montage of how he's got to where he is now, and then there's the kind of more sort of relaxed bit where it's reflecting on the kind of friendships and love life, and then back to the boxing again. It's something like that. Something which is very much a kind of positivity with reflection, and then back to positivity again. Um, so I'd have no idea what I'd call it, but yeah, it would certainly be that sort of thing if it hadn't been inspired by actually real life driving with the top down on a beautiful day.
Okay. How about this? That makes me think about the fact that when I a lot of times when I'm writing, in fact, almost always on the guitar and actually a lot on the piano, we've already touched on this, I discover things. If I were to say, Terry, write me a song
Mm.
about being underwater, write me a song about being in the stars, write me a song about whatever, can you just bring that mood into your head and say, this is what outer space sounds like to me? Or do you have to hear it first and go, holy shit, that's actually, this? Which is it, the chicken or the egg kind of? How does it work for you?
So it can work both ways, actually. It's kind of weird that you mentioned underwater because I've recently been asked to work on a project about elements, like fire, earth, water, air, and I picked water as the one that I'm going to work on.
Okay,
But the the whole kind of thing for me is if I can get my head round the kind of how I feel about something, it's not always going to match what somebody else feels about something, but I can certainly get an approximation. So if you said like think about space, well, to me space is like you've got your general emptiness and you've got your starlight, and if you think, well, is it space as seen from a planet's surface, or is it space as in you're out there in a rocket? So I'd kind of want to clarify what is it that's in your head. But I
sure.
would be able to get that into my head and get into that mood and come up with something pretty quickly, which is why I've always wanted to have the kind of the challenge of being commissioned to actually say, right, I want you to write this soundtrack, or I want you to write this or that or the next thing, because I think I'd be able to do it, but I've never really had the opportunity to prove myself doing it.
Sure.
Um, so but I believe that when I do try to do something deliberately, it starts off relatively clinical, but then the more I get into it, then the emotion comes into it, and so I might come up with some melodies or some chords that I'm thinking about space or I'm thinking about underwater, and the initial ideas, as I say, are very much traditionally what you'd associate with that medium or that situation, but then it gets my own sort of twist on it as I work on it more, because I find I, I couldn't write music in the days of like Beethoven or Mozart. I couldn't just write it down on a page and have that's what it is. The way my ideas develop is very organic, and so there's no way I'd be in any way successful back in those days. Not that I'm successful now. You know, having a few hundred people listening to something on
Well, we're
Spotify is not exactly a success, but it's personal success because it means it's not just me listening. You know,
yeah, and
and
I
I've had that
think
occasional really nice message from somebody saying, you know,
yeah, and I think you probably heard me say on the show before, if you're a listen or if you're a viewer or anybody, that I don't think we need to measure success. We don't need to compare ourselves to Beyonce and Robbie Williams and whoever else. You know, if you get something out of music and you're getting what you want out of music, like if your only hope in music is to be famous, then you need to pick another hobby because there's a lot of better ways to get famous, a lot of easier ways to get famous. You know,
yeah,
it's really hard to do that in music. But if your hope is to express
yeah,
yourself
uh,
and connect with community and, feel self actualized in your own life, then you're a successful musician if you did those three
yeah,
things. And that's what I shoot for. I'm not going to lie and act like I don't want an audience and I wouldn't love to get a Grammy or I wouldn't love to, something, any accolades. That would be amazing. But I don't cry
yeah.
myself to sleep tonight because I don't have a Grammy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, for me, I've had maybe since I don't know 2005. I think I did my first release. But since then, so what you're looking at, 20 and a bit years, um, I've had two or three messages where people have said that my music has helped them, in some way to either inspire them to do something or to help them through a difficult situation. And just those two or three messages mean to me I am a success. Because um, something positive has come of it. I've been able to scratch my own itch of having to create stuff, because if I don't create stuff, I just feel like I don't know, a bit antsy, a bit unsettled. I'm driven to create music, and it's just something that's in me that has to come out. But the fact that I can now release it, like 30 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to release it. I'd have needed a record contract, all that sort of stuff. But these days, you can just release it, and if you can help one person through anything, you're a success. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my own yardstick by which I measure
sure.
it. And as you say,
This
it'd be
is,
great to
yeah,
have accolades. It'd be great to be able to do it exclusively to earn a living from it. But those are bonuses to me. The actual main thing is being able to get it out there so that it can help somebody, anybody, through anything. As long as it doesn't do the opposite and like completely ruin somebody's life, which I have no idea how that could happen with the music that I create. But yeah, that to me is the main thing. And I do wish more people could focus on that sort of thing. Like some people want to do it for the money, and they're really disappointed when they see like I don't know a couple of hundred streams on Spotify, and they're getting like half a cent, or whatever. It's like if that, it's like don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. It's more about having it out there. That there may be that one person who will hear it and go, "Oh, I want to use that in a soundtrack," and that soundtrack is a film that becomes mega famous, and you can earn thousands of dollars or pounds from it. But
sure.
that's going to be the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, yeah. I think I want to go back to something you said about how if you don't create, you don't feel right. You've got to create things because that, I
Yeah,
was going to ask, do we need to communicate with other people? Would we create in a vacuum? I think we would. I think you would. I think I would. Um, and I
yeah,
wonder how much of that is an echo of, when most of the time that humans were on this earth and evolving, we didn't live in a world where we could get everything at the local shop and where we had air conditioning and we had this, that, and the other. Most
yeah,
of our quality of life is pretty good, at least if we live in a first world nation,
yeah,
or maybe that's not the politically correct term anymore. A developed nation, whatever. You know what I mean? Um,
yeah.
but if uh, having those, I just what What were we talking about? I lost my train of thought. I
Yeah, the, the,
accidentally.
the, the urge to create would be creating a
Oh,
vacuum, I
oh,
think.
yes, Jesus. I think I'm just a little hassled by the buffering and by everything going slightly haywire tonight. But this has been lovely with you, Terry. So I don't mean to suggest that you've been anything short of awesome. But what I was going to say, thank you for reminding me, because I'm a dummy, is
No worries. I don't have all the distractions that you have trying to host it and all the buffering and streaming and all that sort of stuff.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Well,
I mean, back before the internet, just to quickly answer the
yeah,
question, because
sure.
it's yeah, I was creating in a vacuum, but I didn't have any feedback to tell me if what I was creating was any good. And I think that's the big difference is that you can create in a vacuum, and the old way of doing things is you'd create in a vacuum. You might get some friends to say, "Hey, there's this problem, there's that problem, you got this challenge, you got that challenge." You might be lucky enough to get somebody from a record company, go, oh, actually, there's some potential here. Let's get you in the studio and let's practice stuff. But these days, because you can put it all out there, you're no longer in that vacuum. It might not be much more filled than a vacuum, to be honest, but you certainly have that opportunity to get feedback. And because you know it's being out there and people can hear it, you're more likely to be more self-analytical. And actually, although you're creating in your vacuum or almost vacuum, you can actually listen to it more critically yourself, knowing that other people can hear it as well. And I think it just changes your mindset slightly.
Yeah.
And I'm
Does
very,
it?
very glad that I'm living, as I said, as that I'm living now, and not like 30, 40, 50, or even more years ago.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Music has become very, very democratized. We all have more recording power, more studio power in our bedrooms, in our studies than the Beatles had in Abbey Road when they recorded Rubber Soul. They were working with a 4 track. They did Rubber Soul on a 4 track. Like
Yep.
that's nuts. They bounced a
It's
lot of
very
tracks
impressive, isn't it?
down,
Yeah.
but incredible. And do you think you would write it all if you didn't have this stuff? Would you have found a way? Because I mean, you played piano before you picked up a DAW. You must have plunked out a melody or two. Maybe you wouldn't be the
Oh yeah.
composer that you are, but uh, how would your composing be different? Do you think?
Oh, you dropped. I heard the how of that, but I didn't
Oh,
hear the rest of it.
okay. How would your composing be different if you didn't have the technology you had? If you and I were sitting in a
Yeah.
room together and you just had a piano, would you be writing the same stuff, or do you think it would be less dense, more dense, more? I mean, how would you characterize it?
So I think I'd be writing similar stuff, but I think I'd be limited by the medium in which I could kind of fix it in place. So by medium, I mean like when I first started doing it, because I had been learning classical piano, I'd actually wrote down the notes on um, sheet
On
music, on
staff
blank
paper?
blank sheet
Yeah,
music. I'd have the staff would write down the notes. So I'd be writing that down on paper, but I'd be limited by the fact that I'd have to kind of remember what I'd played. Whereas now I can record it, all the notes in MIDI, all the gazillion notes that are there, and so it lets me um, develop what I'm playing more because once I've written it down on sheet music, then it's kind of fixed in place and it doesn't have the complexity that when I just play it, it's what I remember of that complexity that goes down.
I
So I think
gotcha.
the big difference is that these days it's a more realistic representation of the inspiration that I had that can then be developed. Whereas without that, you're kind of stuck by how quickly you can write it. And I went through kind of a similar process that I started off writing it down on sheet music note by note, but then I managed to get a 4 track recorder for my birthday one year, and it completely changed the game because then I could record it. I could do what you said the Beatles did. I could bounce down tracks. I could, and I've got some of those 4 track tapes, and they are so bad, but the ideas were actually okay, and. So I've got something that was bounced down, then bounced down again, and then bounced down again. Quality suffers, because I'm
Yeah,
not in a professional studio. But then when I went digital, it's a complete game changer.
sure.
It just because then you can have as many tracks as you want, but it's also more challenging because then you can't just go wild and have 100 tracks because then it's just a
Yeah.
mess.
Well,
I mean, technically you can. but then you're kind of stuck by the hardware.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, devil's advocate. Uh, Once upon a time, I was a novelist, and my dad and I used to talk about how back in the day, 100, 200 years ago, if you wanted to be a novelist, you had to have your parchment, you had to have your quill, you had to do a longhand. You had to write drafts in longhand. You couldn't edit, you couldn't go back, you couldn't whatever. And the fact that word processing and now even AI is writing novels has made it so easy. There's a glut of bad novels. Now there are also more
Yep.
good novels and more great novels because there are more people who can write. But the marketplace is so glutted with people who just decided they're gonna, or the people like Paris Hilton or whatever who downloads a loop and says something like hot, that's hot over it, hot, hot, and now they're a pop star, they think. um, are there downsides to the democratization of music creation, or do you see it as yellow brick road, shiny sunshine, etc.?
So I've been thinking about this a lot because there's been a lot of talk about, people just having AI backing tracks and then kind of rapping on top or coming up with something. And I think there's always a place for creativity, right? But the problem is the easier it is to create using tools, something which you can just say, I want to create this, the more generic everything gets it. But the easier it gets to release, so there's more noise and it's harder to cut through that noise. Like
Yeah,
back in the day, you could almost know that your gatekeepers were the companies that were willing to invest in an artist. You'd have your
sure.
recording contract, they'd get you in the studio, they'd do all that sort of stuff. That gatekeeping isn't there anymore. So anybody can release anything and say, "I'm a musician," and I'm not saying that they're not musicians, but it's much harder to get yourself heard because there is so much more out there. And I think that's a big difference. Is that say there were 50 artists who were having recording contracts. Now you'd have 5,000 artists who don't have recording contracts. You'll still have the same number out of those um, artists who have got the quality and the ability to be those 50, but you've got the other 4,500 who are just, because they've got the ability to release, they've not had the help to develop, and so they, in their heads, they're obviously biased and they think that they're fantastic,
Yeah.
but it's cutting through that noise becomes much more difficult, and so you end up having to be a self-marketer, which is why I'm becoming so much more about the community of artists and trying to get communities together to work as a group of talented people. And I think there's so many challenges that are shared by musicians, by writers. You mentioned writing novels and the old quill and parchment and stuff. There's so many challenges, even though the end result requires more investment and time from the consumer. So it takes longer to read a book than it does to listen to an album. But the creation process, I think, is very, very similar with your
Or
revisions,
it's
and
yeah,
digital
it's
makes things easier to produce something, but means there's more noise out there to try and cut through to get yourself heard. And I think we can learn from each other. And I'm really trying to push that a lot more than self-promotion. Obviously, I'm here. It's just me talking about Purple Rhapsody, but I think the value in communities is really, really something that we need to work on to kind of cut through that noise. It's easier to do that as a group of talented people than it is to do it as an individual.
all right. Awesome. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat, making sure we're not missing anything.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been an hour already as well,
Yeah,
time-wise.
we
It's like,
made it
wow.
an hour, and I was trying to cut us off at an hour, so about we've made it. We've done an hour. Terry, this was a lot of fun. You are a talented guy, and driving with the top down is a dope track. So thank you for coming on and talking about it with me. Um, we are gonna
Yeah.
upload. You may hear people, or if you watch this back, you're gonna see it buffered and stuff. I'm gonna upload the video to Twitter and to whatever I have it saved on my hard drive.
Cool.
So if it didn't come out great in Twitch, it's gonna come out
So
eventually
just
perfectly.
before we drop the whole thing, can I
Yeah.
just say thank you so much for having me on the third episode. I really appreciate it. The I hate the sound of my own voice, but I will kind of listen back and kind of try not to cringe too much. But yeah, but thank you so much for having me on, and thank you to everybody who's joined. I've no idea what kind of numbers we got, and apologies to everybody on my social media for me pushing and pushing and pushing and saying, "Hey, nothing is more important." But yeah, thanks to the
Well,
community, and
yeah.
thanks so much to you as well for having me on. So
Hey,
thank
my
you, everyone.
pleasure, man. We'll do it again sometime. When I run out of guests, we start cycling through again. You're on the list. All right, I'll see you,
Cool.
man.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.